And then lastly, let's say that you are eligible for new IBR. Going back to our spreadsheet, you'll see that to be eligible for new IBR, you have to be considered a new borrower on or after July 1st, 2014. So it means that you have to be fairly young or have gone back to school after paying back your previous loans to be eligible for new IBR. Now, the interesting thing about new IBR and pay as you earn is it's the same payment percentage. It's 10% in both scenarios. It's also the same repayment period. It's 20 years in both scenarios. So in reality, of the available options, this kind of ties the pay-as-you-earn plan for the one that is most appealing. But the extra benefit is if you're eligible for new IBR, that is one of the plans that we know is going to exist even beyond the middle of 2028. So unlike the pay-as-you-earn plan, which is a great plan, yet it's going away, if you're eligible for new IBR, you can make that switch with the confidence of knowing that you're unlikely to be switched again. This payment plan is here to stay. This puts you in the unique scenario where if you're trying to get credit towards forgiveness or public service loan forgiveness right now, it might benefit you to move from the SAVE plan onto new IBR. But if you're on the SAVE plan, eligible for new IBR, and you're still trying to squeeze out as many months of non-payment as possible, it also puts you in an ideal scenario, because if it does take 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or 5 months to kill the SAVE plan, you can wait it out, not make the payments, with the confidence of knowing that even if they force you onto a different plan, it's likely to be the new income-based repayment plan anyways. So I can't answer what's best for your finances, but I can tell you that if you're worried about the prospect of making a payment and you're eligible for that plan, then you have less urgency, in my opinion, than the previous camps that we discussed. That said, there is one group that we have yet to cover which has a lot of urgency, as in next 10 or 11 days urgency, as in if you don't do this before the end of 2025, you could be potentially costing yourself a lot of money urgency. And that is the camp of people we talked about at the beginning of this episode, where they are already eligible for student loan forgiveness and they're just waiting for their credits to be updated, or they're waiting for news that the department has resumed the processing of forgiveness. And until they have that clarity, they are staying on the SAVE plan. That is a very dangerous place to be. Going back a couple of months to the episode we shared about the student loan update in a separate court case, the Department of Education was taken to court by the American Federation of Teachers because they had stopped processing forgiveness under all income-driven repayment plans for not great reasons. And the American Federation of Teachers took them to court and said, this is illegal, you should be processing this forgiveness. And as a result of that court case, the Department of Education agreed to several things with more specificity in terms of how they were going to process forgiveness moving forward. Now, beyond just the reasonable thought of, hey, these people are eligible for forgiveness, you need to process it, there was a real time sensitivity to when they processed forgiveness based on how that forgiveness is or isn't taxed. We've covered this in past episodes, but until the end of 2025, if you have federal student loans that are forgiven under income-driven repayment plans, you do not pay taxes on that forgiveness at the federal level. In most states, that's the case as well when it comes to state taxes, although there are some states out there that tax income-driven repayment plan forgiveness as income in the year of forgiveness. Now, unfortunately, if you have federal student loans forgiven after 2025, then that debt is treated as income in the year it's forgiven. An example would be if you make $50,000 and in 2026 had $75,000 worth of student loans forgiven, then you would have to pay income taxes on $125,000 worth of income. So that's a very serious possibility. And if you have someone who's sitting here in 2025 knowing that they're eligible for forgiveness and the department's not processing it, they're looking and they're saying, hey, if you don't do this before the end of the year, then something that would not have been taxable will now become taxable because of your delay. So as a result of that lawsuit, the department agreed that if you are on any plan other than the SAVE plan, then even if your loans were not forgiven until after 2025, the department would treat your student loans as forgiven in the month that you technically crossed into eligibility. What does that mean? It means that if you met your 20 or 25 year threshold in January of 2025, when that forgiveness wouldn't have been taxable, it wouldn't matter if they didn't actually wipe away the debt until January 2027. You would not pay taxes on it because it would be treated as forgiven in 2025. But remember, that was for borrowers on every plan except the SAVE plan. If you're looking on screen, we're reading from another Forbes article that summarized that settlement. And it says, and I quote, "For the defendant's internal purposes, when a borrower, 1, has achieved eligibility under the SAVE plan, 2, applies to transfer to one of the IBR, ICR, or pay-as-you-earn plans on or before December 31st, 2025, and 3, that application is approved on or after January 1st, 2026, the date that the borrower becomes eligible for cancellation under the new plan constitutes the effective date of their loan discharge, even if that date falls on or before the date the borrower's application was approved." End quote. That is a lot to digest, so let me explain what it means. What it means is if you're on the SAVE plan and you're eligible for forgiveness now, they are not going to wipe away your debt under the SAVE plan. You are required to move that debt to either the ICR, IBR, or pay-as-you-earn plans. But the timing of when you do it is very important, because if you do it after December 31st of this year, it doesn't matter. You're going to have that debt be taxable because you left it on the SAVE plan past the deadline for a debt to be forgiven and not be taxed. But if you apply to have that SAVE plan moved to another eligible repayment option, and you do so before December 31st, 2025, what the Department of Education will look at is they'll say, hey, this person, for example, applied to have their debt transferred to this new payment plan on December 19th of 2025. If we looked at their credits towards forgiveness at that date and time, they had crossed the threshold, and under this new plan, they would have been eligible. So now, even if we don't process the application itself until, say, January 7th, the date that they are considered eligible for forgiveness is December 19th, 2025, which comes in before the deadline and as a result is not taxable. So what they're saying is these people who are in this SAVE plan eligible for forgiveness, you have like 10 or 11 more days to switch your plan and not have this forgiveness be taxed. If you're in the small subset of people to which this applies, you need to take steps now, potentially today, to put in that application. Now, when it comes to federal student loan updates, there are several others that will be very relevant in the coming months. We've talked about the mid-year 2026 deadline for Parent Plus borrowers or people who are not yet on income-driven repayment plans. We're going to talk about that much more in the coming months.